Holy shit, what a week that was. Welcome to the show. Oh, I already swore in the first 30 seconds. Damn it. Welcome to the show. We have had quite a bloody week this week on Tesla and the markets in general. And I predicted all of this. If you go back like 2 or 3 episodes, I told you exactly what they're trying to do. And so we're going to get into that. We're going to get into how my predictions are so freaking accurate that I can barely stand it. And we're going to get into what's next for Tesla and where I think the price is going to go. So welcome to the show. My name is Caleb. I'm your host. I call this show Inside Traders. I like to say that I'm a retired engineer turned degenerate options trader. And now I'm trading perps on crypto too. So we're full leverage, balls to the wall. Let's fucking go. So yeah, welcome to the show. So yeah, like this week, I didn't even look. What is Tesla at? Below 150 probably still. It is getting sold so hard. And so a couple of weeks ago, I told you what their game plan was going to be. And they're doing it exactly as I said they would. I told you that they were going to wait for this event happens on Tuesday, which is going to be a sell-off. And so but that is going to be the time to buy, I think. Okay, so here's what I think is happening. We got to take one step back and look at the Tesla stock, which is down like 40% in the last couple of months, while the rest of the market is just up. And there are so many companies, like Netflix is worth half of Tesla. It's just not true. It's not real. It doesn't reflect the future or even the present. And so how could you prove that somebody's manipulating the market? Well, you could if you had the data, but that would be a very difficult thing to prove even with AI. I do believe that the Tesla price is being massively manipulated for 2 reasons. One, as a direct attack on Mr. Musk, who doesn't do himself any fucking favors. You know, like he does make himself his own target. For somebody who wants to eliminate threat vectors, he sure, has made himself at the center of a lot of different controversies. But I guess then you would want to eliminate, right? You're like, all right, well, I was eliminating threat vectors so I could concentrate them. Maybe that's his take on it. So anyway, he's being personally targeted. And also the company, maybe you can look at it and say that Cybertruck wasn't the best idea to do post-Y, but I think they wanted to test themselves. And, I think they earned the right to have a little fun and make a product that they're passionate about and not just make it all about the bottom line. Now I do think that they're reorienting the company towards looking at 2025 and 2026. And I think we've seen, Mr. Musk say that they're gearing up for the next leg of Tesla growth. And that makes a lot of sense. They just fired, 10% of the company, and I used to work in big tech, so I know what that feels like. And these are very healthy cuts. Like when an organization changes like this, it's painful, but it's a living, breathing thing. It's got to evolve. And the people that took Tesla to, those are my dogs, the people that took Tesla to 1 trillion aren't going to necessarily be the same people that take it to 10 trillion. And that's just a little bit the way it is. Not that they couldn't, but they just might not be. And so, yeah, so much of this negative news and downward price cycle pressure is really like doing... If obviously I didn't know this was going to happen, if I knew it, I would have loaded up on shorts and made bank, right? But first of all, they just did this 2 years ago. This cycle in Tesla just happened 2 years ago. When Russia invaded Ukraine, Tesla had a bad earnings report. There was a downside surprise to economic data, which just happened with inflation data. And there was, however many other negative bits of news they could add to it. And so what happened? Well, what's happening now? Everyone gets liquidated, like when all the longs get called, they get margin called. And so those shares get sold, and then people are forced to sell at the bottom, and that drives the price even lower. Eventually, and that's also very healthy, actually, fundamentally, because it removes the excess, it removes the leverage from the system. Now, if you're one of the ones getting liquidated, that sucks. But obviously, you had the wrong entry point on Tesla to begin with. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been liquidated. But I feel for you, because if things were just and fair in this world, you wouldn't have been liquidated. And you only were because there's political machinations and frivolous bullshit happening that has nothing to do with the value of Tesla or the reality of the future and what is coming so clearly that a blind man could see it. And here's what is coming: autonomy, automated taxis, new vehicle types, new robot models. I'm talking about Optimus, the energy business, the licensing of their technology to all of the incumbent auto manufacturers who will have to buy from Tesla now, or somebody. Maybe they'll invent the tech themselves. I don't know. Is like Ford a technologist, or is Elon Musk a technologist? You will tell me. I think they're going to have to license Tesla's tech. So basically, you just have like 10 businesses, which are already, I think they made like 25 billion. They pulled in like 25 billion last quarter. Let's just look it up because that's an important number. Revenue, 25 billion last quarter. So like they do make money, certainly. And they've got all of these irons in the fires, from their taxi service to their domestic robot. Obviously, the automotive business, the energy business, all of that is like so exciting. Not to mention these partnerships with XAI and SpaceX and, who knows, maybe Neuralink. Maybe we see at like proxy bodies, like people are going to be using avatars, Tesla bots as avatars with hooked up a Neuralink, so they can walk around and get themselves a drink from the fridge, for example. This show today is sponsored by Monster Energy Drink, filled with taurine and zero sugar. Get yourself a Monster. Stay hydrated. Stay fresh. Anyway. So that's basically what's going on with Tesla, is they're getting nuked and everyone's getting liquidated. And so the price is going to go lower. I told you a couple of weeks ago that I thought the price could go around 90 to 125. I think that's still pretty much what I think. Now, what am I doing at this point? Because I think that there is so much selling pressure, and the like selling begets selling, buying begets buying. So like the trend, you got to make the trend your friend. I can't get myself to short Tesla at the bottom. I just can't do it. I cannot do it. What I can do, since I use margin, is not buy the shares directly, because that's a good way to get liquidated. Is the requirements on Tesla are basically retarded. Like you can get 50-25 on so much more risky companies, and yet they set the requirements for Tesla to basically, why not just set it to 100%? Anyway, we're grateful for whatever margin we can buy Tesla on. But actually, you can't really buy Tesla on margin. This is one of the things I've learned about trading with margin, unless you're like basically right about the price. You can if the margin ratio is right, but FINRA can change that any day they want, and they could even target people in theory with that, right? Like, anyway, if you did want to target Tesla, you could change the margin requirements, and that would nuke a lot of shareholders. And so that's what's happening right now. Like, people aren't just selling Tesla because they think it's like a bad company. They're getting liquidated. Like, the shares are being sold at the bottom, and the shorts are just laughing their way to the bank. They're just raking in money. And good for the shorts. It helps to be able to manipulate the market. So, like, you're not a fucking genius. You just have what should be a legal power. But good on you for exercising your legal powers in your interest. I would do just the same. I'm no better. So anyway, yeah, it's just so funny how it's happening exactly as I said, where the now here's a little. I don't know what's going to happen in the earnings report. Maybe it goes up. If it did, it would be like the first time ever. Um, what is going to happen is on Tuesday, there will be an escalation of geopolitical events around either this weekend. I hope not, right? I really do hope not. I hope I'm wrong about that. But if I was really trying to manipulate things and I was trying to fuck with the world, markets, economies, and do all these different things, then I would be trying to like stack up all of these on one event. And Tesla, being one of the most important companies in the world, is a pretty good target to focus on. And so, I could never prove that I think that there's manipulative machinations happening, but I am definitely trading like that's the case. And so what I said I was going to do to protect myself on margin was just go all in on dividends, which is what I'm doing. And so basically, I don't buy the Tesla dip in shares as much. I'll throw in some 2026 call options. That's purely a hedging thing. I'll use calls these days. I use calls almost in two different ways. I do use them to try to acquire shares, and which I don't think anyone else does, actually. I think that's like what they're made for. I don't think anyone actually uses them for that. I try to use them for that. But I am using it to keep the price of Tesla down. That is what I'm doing. And so yeah, like I'm buying a couple of like 2026 super out of the money calls at 400 strikes, something crazy, maybe 500 even. Mostly just so that if there is an explosion to the upside, I don't miss it because I don't have many shares right now. And I'm not going deep into shares. I'm accumulating a little bit, but like not a lot. I'm not like liquidating into Tesla right now because I do believe that they're going to try to do exactly what they did 2 years ago. And they're so close to actually doing it, which is incredible. And it just shows you how rigged the system is, that these things can happen so predictably and cyclically. So anyway, like we had this bad inflation data, right? Well, guess what? They're going to revise those numbers. How much you want to bet? I would bet $250 with anyone in this live chat that the next earnings print or the next inflation print comes in lower than expected and they revise the numbers down. And if it's not this one, it's going to be the next one. They can make those numbers whatever they want. The whole thing is rigged. Like if they just make them up because here's the thing about the markets and timing and options. Like, well, I just said it. When you want to participate in the options market, timing is everything. And oftentimes you just need to raise the price up for like 2 minutes to get you out of your trade profitably, and then you can let it collapse again. And they do that stuff all of the time. They do that shit all the time. And so, yeah, like the inflation numbers coming in, I don't believe it. I don't believe that for a fucking second. I don't trust one single one of those numbers not to have a name behind each of it that represents a personal and private and a special interest. And that's just, I refuse to believe those numbers reflect reality. Because first of all, it's hard to measure shit. I worked in measurement and in trying to like build metrics that track the performance of things or the quality of them or whatever. It's impossible to measure anything. Assuming you can measure it, the measure breaks instantly. Anytime anything changes, all of your past data is invalid. It's not comparable. So like, it's hard to like measure something, but the algorithms do trade off of that number, which is important. And the market makers know that. And they know that they can get the algorithms to work for them by just manipulating the price. So like, yeah, can I prove any of this? No, I can't prove a shit, but this is how I do think it works. So yeah, like I'm buying up things that are, I'm not like loading up on Tesla shares. I'll tell you when I'll load up. I'll load up basically now. I would say below 130, below 135. I won't risk it. I'll start loading up shares. I'll liquidate things starting probably 10, $20 lower than here, because I know that Tesla has a bottom and it's got to be around 50 to $100. I think it's much closer to $100. Um, Obviously, I can't know that. I can't claim that I don't know that Tesla will go below $50 or whatever. But their multiple is shrinking so fast. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so eventually there are going to be long-term buyers who this has been their target for 3.5 years, and they were the patient investors, and now the door is open and they're going to fill up. And that's the power of patience in markets. That's why you should try to stay patient. It's hard with Tesla though. We want to liquidate the house now. For real. But yeah, like I think that the real time to load up will be post earnings dip. I think we get possibly below 100. I don't know. That seems impossible right now, but like, man, I know what it feels like when Tesla dips, and it's just been languishing. Like a deep dip, the one that the deep dip happens when all the longs that never imagined they'd get liquidated are sold out, and then like everyone gets stopped out of the market and all the leverage is gone, and the only thing you have is like rock hard shareholders, and they're not selling because they don't even know that Tesla moved that day. Like they look at it, Tesla once every 5 years, that kind of stuff. Those are the core shares. So once we reach that level, that's when it's going to act like a fucking magnifier or whatever. It's just going to be like, whoa, and the price is going to go up to infinity and beyond. And to me, that's like $300. But like for real, I think Tesla doubles off this bottom. And the closer it gets to maybe like $90, and the reason I'm picking that number is that's the lowest print I saw when Elon Musk sold out his investors to buy Twitter. And it was the exact same situation as today, like where we had the war in Ukraine and there was a bad inflation print, and it all just happened on the exact same day. And then you just saw the price. It was like 5%, and it's like, oh, that hurts. 7, 11, 15, 22% down. Holy shit, it's down 50%. It's down another 22% off of the 50%. Like, that's what a dip feels like. People talk about these dips. That's what a dip feels like. And so hopefully I'll be able to buy that dip. I think I should, because I am pretty well diversified, and I have been holding back on buying it a little bit, here and there. At the same time, I've been getting liquidated from bad entry points on other portfolios or whatever. But yeah, right now my approach is just take it slow, buy into the dip via this Yield Max Tesla fund, which is currently distributing at 90% distributions. So you're going to get your cash back anyway. And then you can use that cash to either be patient and wait for the dip to go deeper and buy in more of that, or you could buy actual Tesla shares. And so honestly, this isn't going to happen because it would be too good for me if it did. The world can't be this good. But in the perfect world, Tesla stays right where it's at for 2 years, a couple of years. I wish Tesla would stay below 150 for the next 5 years. I wish that Tesla would stay below $125 for the next 5 years. I wish. They say be careful what you wish for. So we'll see. I wish it. I do wish it. Because that would give me plenty of time to accumulate. But I don't think that's going to happen. And so what I think is going to happen is once they margin call everyone they possibly can, that is when all of the traders flip. That's about to happen. It's about to happen. You want to know how I know it's about to happen? Nvidia just dropped 10% today. They're getting cash together to buy Tesla up. That's what my Spidey sense says. My Spidey sense says they sold down Nvidia today, and they maybe even happened for a while, and they're buying up cash, well, possibly even shorting Tesla still. But then they're going to do the reversal, and they're going to deploy all of those sold calls into the bottom of Tesla, and they're going to make a tremendous amount of money. That is what I predict is going to happen. And so I'm going to try to do something similar, basically, which is, since I'm not them and I have no idea what day they do that, I know it'll be on the day that I am out of money. That'll be on the day it happens. But for real, so that's why I'm trying to make sure that I don't stay out of money, that I can always buy, and wait for the big dip on Tesla. Because 5%, that ain't shit. That's nothing. You got to see 10, 12% in a day. Now, maybe they can't do it. They would need this Iran-Israel conflict to escalate. They would need the Fed to reverse their policy, to be more hawkish. Like, there's externals that the short sellers can't control. They can only stack on top of and benefit from. And so if the global peace or whatever, if there's like, if tensions subdue, or like if people just chill the fuck out globally and stop killing each other, that's going to be real bad for the shorts. Also, if there's any kind of like movement on inflation, like the ultimate company that is going to benefit from a lower interest rates is Tesla. Everyone knows that. They never talk about it, because they don't want you to know it. And so it works in markets. Like, there's things I'm not telling you that could help you. And I'm not telling you because I've learned that if I share my exploit, it will go away. And so I'm going to exploit it for as long as I can, as much as I can. And only when it stops working for me will I tell you what I did. And because otherwise, if everyone knows about it, then there's no value. Like, one of the weird, funny things about markets is you genuinely have an incentive not to share information and to make things more confusing and difficult, and just to hide what you're actually doing, and to use subterfuge and deception, and they do it all the time on the news outlets. They tell people to do the wrong thing all the time. Now I know these guys. I've spent so much time listening to them. Shout out to my friends at CNBC. I know you guys. For real, like, I've spent so much time listening to everyone that I can tell when it's like something, usually, maybe with some percentage accuracy, I'd say like 30 to 70%, like I'd say 50% or more accuracy, when somebody's reading a line that they even, anyway, just reporters have different styles. So, it's kind of funny when you watch somebody say something that, like, they don't believe it. They don't believe it. It's not like they're lying. They're just saying an opinion. It could be either way, but it's just funny. Now, can I prove that? I can't prove it. I don't know for sure, but that is also what I think is happening. So yeah, stack those dividends, man. I'm telling you, don't buy Tesla shares on margin. You're going to get liquidated. Buy TSLA shares, the Yield Max fund, and use those distributions to either keep buying the dip, or if you can time it right, which is what I'm trying to do, accumulate real Tesla shares closer to the bottom, which again, I think is like 90 to 125. Now I'll say 90 to 137. That's what I think the range for Tesla is. Now, if you ask me, we're below intrinsic value by like, I don't know, $50, maybe $100 already. I already think we're below intrinsic value, but that is because I think that I see this future with Tesla, and it's really an important company. And so, like, Apple level importance, like change the world level importance. And when the market does, like Nvidia, like when the market recognizes that reality, then it will be reflected in the price. But guess what? NVIDIA had that potential for a decade. And when did the price reflect the potential? When it was no longer potential, when it was a reality, when their earnings were actually tremendous continuously and consistently. And it's because of all of the things that they were building but unrecognized for, which is always how it works. You know, like if you're buying in on the news, you're too late. Like if you buy in, if Apple was to announce on Tuesday or Wednesday next week that they have an AR glasses platform that they've been developing since 2014. If that were to happen, over a decade of development, actually 12 years, if that were to happen, maybe longer, it could have been 2012. Anyway, if that were to happen and that had like a big positive move in the stock price, what's the point? Why would we care about Apple? Important company, Tesla. I think I actually lost one. Wow. We'll see if it comes back to me. Sorry, guys. Hate it when the driver crashes. But yeah, I think just the main point of everything we're talking about is how important of a company that Tesla will be and already is, and how to play these manipulated markets. And so, yeah, that's what I would suggest is like if you're not buying on, you just need to buy Tesla in a way that you can keep on buying it, because I don't think that the dip is over. I think that I think people are accumulating money to deploy into Tesla, and it's going to be a vertical line. It's going to be a vertical line down, but then it's going to be a vertical line up. And if you miss that day, it's over. That was the day. And so you have to be invested before that day, which is why people buy Tesla on margin and get liquidated, because they didn't want to miss that day. So you also do have to be correct about that. So yeah, that's about everything I got to say on Tesla. General markets, like, yeah, super bearish. I think we're at the bottom of it. They can put on this show as much as they want. We're going into a rate cutting cycle at the same time when AI is like exploding, is like coming out of the womb or whatever. It's like this AGI is being born, and it's going to be a uplift to productivity and to efficiency in every sector, lasting decades and decades. You know, we're going to have breakthroughs in energy and healthcare and robotics and AI and obviously finance. And so all of those breakthroughs will accumulate, right? They'll be they'll be accumulative. And in terms of our gross domestic product, we will rise. So like we'll make more money basically because of artificial intelligence and all of this new tech that we build with artificial intelligence. I'm going to mess up his name, which I don't want to, because I really, really enjoy his podcast. But Peter Diamandis, I heard him say something recently that just made so much sense. And I've heard him say it a few times, actually, basically that we're using better and better computers to create better and better computers. So you start, and we're all like talking about how many transistors we can cram into like some micron of space using atomic level structures today. Well, we started with like relay switches and then vacuum tubes. And I don't even know the history, but like we started with something that was like, you know, actually I do know. It was I've seen it. Like my own father programmed the first computers using punch cards, physical, you know, like, and to write software back in those days, you had to like, you know, you couldn't even have multiple files open at the same time. It was all just so difficult. Even just to write 8 bits of code took weeks of effort and organization and like a team of guys in a room, you know, and they had to figure out like, how do we all how do we all work on the same file at once, before source control was invented. And so guess what? Source control, that saves time and money, and it's efficient to use it. And so like we have this cumulative tailwind in our economy, and we benefit from it every day. The price of bread goes down, and so does the rate of crime. And there is nothing that we could do that would be more blessed than for society that would like help everyone than to actually give them what they need and a little bit of what they want. Now, people just can't stand the idea of that. Their spite in them just instantly rages. Like for that it's this line I love from Count of Monte Cristo, where he's like, you have to suffer like I suffered. Like why do we deprive doctors of sleep and then make them go operate on patients? Well, because the last guy did it, and there's no way in hell I'm going to be the last guy that had to get hazed. The next guy gets hazed too. Like eventually some parent stops puking their defects into the heads of their children, and the cycle does break. It takes a lot of generations. It takes a lot of time for people to stop repeating repeating the mistakes of their past. And so it doesn't really matter though, because we do have all this good tech. Like I really think about this a lot. What is the curve of technology? As far as I can tell, which is one of my favorite expressions, it had to be fire, right? It had to be fire. And that's what people say, like fire in the wheel. Well, what are those? Like labor-saving devices, obviously, but there's something incredible about that. So first of all, oxygen is a biosignature. It actually probably can be made a lot organically, but generally life on Earth oxygenated our atmosphere. In the earliest days, I think the eukaryote period or whatever, you go back a couple of billion years ago, 3 billion years ago, and everything was like just a chemical in the ocean. Like it wasn't really alive. It was actually totally alive, but this is pre-Cambrian explosion. This is pre-developing, like limbs and eyeballs and digestive tracts. This is before we were a hollow tube that wants to pass other hollow tubes through it. In those days, the atmosphere, I think, was just nitrogen or something, CO2 maybe, but it wasn't oxygen. And so basically these algae in the ocean just like slowly over billions of years took in, I guess, CO2 and released oxygen, which was actually very good because it's so reactive and it's so chemically, you could do a lot of good work with oxygen. But we used it specifically to create fire, which is crazy. That's so recursive. Like, how could man exist without fire? Well, you need life to create fire. I don't know. It just seems like the dependency is circular dependency there. But like, then you want to explain how the eyeball got started or whatever, like tell me how DNA works, like how do you fold a protein in a shape that actually is beneficial? Like there are supreme mysteries out there. And how man solved fire probably isn't one of them. I think we just figured out it was useful along the way and then figured out how to make it. But as soon as we got good at making it, who knows, maybe they were dancing around the fire. Maybe that got people really in touch emotionally. And maybe like when they started to make sounds with their tongue in their mouth, that the people could understand them. And they didn't know exactly what they meant, but it evoked a similar emotion or a similar feeling. And then boom, you get two monkeys, rock. Now we have a word for rock. And then now you have fire and language. Well, you're going to get agriculture soon, and then you get pants and the internet, and the whole thing's done. So like, we've been working on this problem for billions of years. Not really. Humans, I think, have been dedicatedly working on the problem probably since around the start of religion, which is a long time. That's a long time. And so, because we want to know what the truth of reality is. That's fundamentally what humans are concerned with. They want to understand what is the nature of reality. Science and religion have the same exact question. They have different approaches, not even really, just, one came from the other. Religion birthed science in that way. I think. I agree. I don't. That's not my idea, but I agree with it. So now we have all of this technology benefiting us, but it's great because we also have these great demands. And so our energy demands with AI and with cryptocurrencies are going to skyrocket. That says nothing to do with population. We're going to eventually, once we get our shit together, we're going to be growing as many people as we possibly can because there's plenty of space. There's so much space. It's all we have is space. It's all we have in the universe. We got space. Yeah, we got space. And resources. Yeah, we have space and resources on Earth, not to mention elsewhere, for a lot more people. And so we're going to grow them and get as many as we can, max out that head count. That's going to give us another tailwind, which like each unit you get is like multiplicative. And so we're going to stack up as many humans as we can with all the best tech, and they're going to be endowed with all this, like education and AI and all these things, and then we can start to get crazy. But I won't see that. I died a lot earlier. I mean, we all did, right? Like humanity is going to last a long time, hopefully. So today, as it stands, we are the beneficiaries of an incredible tailwind of technology. And Tesla, I think, is a supreme example of that. Even if you just look at their manufacturing process, how do they build cars? They build it like people build toys. They inject metal into a mold like Tinker Toys or whatever you call it. Toyota? No. What's the Toys R Us? Damn it. No, there's another one. Anyway, I can't remember. But like they make real vehicles in the same methods that toy makers make their cars. Why? It's cheap and efficient. And so like the reason why Toyota and Ford and all the incumbents, GM, they're fucked. And I know why. It's the same reason libraries are fucked. I'm sure they'll be around. Who's going to go into one? Only one that has somebody has no other choice. Maybe they can adopt these new manufacturing methods and survive. I doubt it. I think that they're going to consolidate big time because they're going to do, it's like when Amazon came out in your Barnes and Nobles. Obviously you got to do everything you can to buy them or whatever. Like there's things you got to see when somebody's out competed you, and then you got to try to join them. And who's out competing Tesla? Nobody. Not even close. Apple will try, but that's a long ways off. We'll see if they're able to. What's the point? So we have this tremendous... I guess I was just saying that like all of these legacy automakers are screwed because they can't actually compete with Tesla. But they shouldn't be, because Tesla isn't a car company. Tesla is a car company like Apple is a phone company. They make a lot of phones, like that's not fundamentally what defines their competency and what they've been building and progressing for years. Neither is, and that's not the case with Tesla either. I would define from my external perspective and from what I've heard other people say that they are a robotics and artificial intelligence manufacturer. That's how I would describe Tesla. That's what I think they do. Now, they have an energy business. They have a taxi service. There are a lot of things, right? But I think fundamentally, they make really smart robots. Yeah. So you have like one of the best companies in the world just getting trashed right now. And we are not going to see an opportunity like this maybe ever again. It might be never again. Like I bet a bunch of people that bought 3 years ago thought they'd never see 150 again. If we do break below 100, I will go on record and say that will be the last time that Tesla is ever below 100. Once it's above 100 and stays, because what they're ramping into changes the world. They already did it. They already changed it. But like it changes it undeniably. It terraforms it. Like they change culture. Now we're going to terraform the world. So like now we're going to physically reconstruct it to suit our purposes. And we're going to do that physically. So yeah, I'm pretty excited actually still, just not actually, but just still about the future of Tesla. I see them as in the pole position for being the robotics manufacturer that makes the domestic robot, which we create billions upon billions of copies of. Now, there's a lot of different ways this could go, right? Maybe we see a lot. This is actually what my preferred way would be. My preferred way is if it wasn't obvious which humanoid robot was the best, because then we'd have a lot of great options to choose from. And so I would love to see Apple create a bot. I think they could do really well at that. NVIDIA, I think, might even try. I think they're going to take the Android approach. Maybe they'll go software only. I don't know. Yeah, and then we have a couple of startups, Figma. We have some other startups that are going for a humanoid robot, which I've talked about this for many, many years. But the reason why we do have to build a humanoid robot is because they have to be able to equip tools. And they just have to do the whole world is built for human hands. And if it wasn't built for human hands, it's built for the human form, which is a bipedal quadruped. And as I like to say, got that one from Bill Bryson. But yeah, like that is the form that the world has been built for, and it will yield the most efficiency to create a massive number of units that fit that form. And people will say, oh, no, we'll have specialized robots. It just doesn't make sense. It's not really how things work. Like, why would you have a bunch of specialized units that cost more to manufacture, produce, design, develop, and certainly to maintain than one ring to rule them all? Obviously, you're going to have one ring to rule them all, which is the humanoid form, which may be actually the ideal form. Like, what if we found out aliens? Like, if you ever look at a turtle, it's kind of like a human, right? It's just got a shell on its back and it's laying on the ground. It's just got 4 of these, and it's just like in the Cambrian explosion, there was this happened billions of years ago. This is when life evolved most of its body plans, but there was some crazy body plans. What we settled on was brain, eyes, digestive system, and some limbs, some ways to ambulate. And so we're like these local but mobile foragers that have evolved, I think, specifically to match this shape. Like even 5 digits on our hands, like why 5? Opposable thumbs, like these things are helpful. And so the humanoid robot, or I mean the robot that will free humans from work, if that's what you want to call it, will take human form and be a humanoid robot. I believe that's what I see. And it'll just purely because of efficiency. I'm not saying we're not going to have like a million drones and specialized robots. Obviously we'll have both. But in terms of like what lives in your home, you're not going to have 25 species of robots. You're going to have 3 Tesla bots. Maybe there's 3 Apple bots. I don't know. Yeah. So that's what I see is going on. Pretty excited about this world we're entering into, because I just cannot believe how real it all is. AI is real. Like Tesla is real, despite what people say. The car drives itself. It's funny. All of the naysayers, like, they're going to keep saying whatever they want. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the Tesla will be undeniable based off of the actual reality of it. And the reality of it is one of two things in 3 years is going to be true. Either you're going to buy a Tesla car for 25 grand that's better than the car that people paid 250 grand for. Okay. So it's going to be, they paid 250 grand. Other people paid 125. Other people paid 75. You're going to pay 25 for the exact same thing. In fact, it will be better. So like, if you don't count that as like the deal of the century, I'm telling you, it is the deal of the century. It's like an iPhone compared to a rotary phone. Maybe it's an iPhone compared to a Razor. And so if you're old enough to remember those. So yeah, like it's either you'll buy that car or Uber doesn't exist. Instead, you pull up the Tesla app, you order a self-driving taxi, and it's at your house within 2 minutes. It costs 1/10 the cost of a Uber, right? Because you don't have to pay a driver, which is everything. That's the whole cost. So obviously it would be a giant cost decline. And it's clean and efficient, and it all just works. I think probably both. I think you buy the Tesla for 25 grand, but you never actually drive it. You just have Tesla's Uber you around. But they've also got this energy business that I think is really exciting. And they deploy these solar walls or solar roofs and power walls, and they've got these giant battery farms that they use at the like industrial and even government level to even out the grid. And you know, it is actually way greener because you don't have to flip on your natural gas whenever your wind turbines slow down or whatever. You have this battery supply. And so people will be like, oh, well, it causes all this pollution to dig the lithium out of the ground and to build the battery. Hey, dummy, you can recharge it, you dummy. You're so dumb for saying that. You're so dumb for saying that. You're so stupid. You want to know why you're so stupid for saying that? Because you can recharge it. You can't recharge gasoline, dummy. Dummy. I want you to feel so bad. Anyone who ever talks about how the Teslas pollute more because the one-time fee of extracting and producing the materials causes pollution, as opposed to oil, which is completely clean to extract. You know, like what? No, oil, you pay the exact same cost and you burn it. Okay. So like, you're so dumb that you couldn't just see it and that you repeated it. You're so dumb. All right. That's how I want to end the show. Thanks.